Rachel, we're ready.
You want to pass it over to me, Simone, or do you want to open?
I think she's gone.
Hi, my name's Dina, and I have two questions. How can young people in Canada get engaged in fighting climate change and make the Earth better and safer to live? And also, could you tell us how you personally contributed to the environment at home?
We live on the planet Earth. It's made of plants and dirt. We gotta make this worth. Don't make our Earth hurt.
One reason the Earth is so special is because it's beautiful. Vegetables is healthy and saves money. I wonder how many bell peppers we can grow. The tree gives the oxygen. They clean the air. Protect the trees. Love lighting trees.
Earth is special because it has life.
And the ones that you grow, how do they taste compared to the other ones that you get?
Fresher. We reuse material.
¿Por qué nuestro planeta es tan importante?
Porque los tocar y ya no hay otro.
Why the Earth is a special place for you?
Because it is very beautiful.
Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I am sure we all feel that it's very inspiring. I am beyond excited and beyond delighted to have everybody here. Wonderful to see so many faces that are known and known to each other. Wonderful to know how many parts of the world we all hail from. So my name is Regina Lolca. I'm honored to be your host this afternoon. I am welcoming you from Toronto, Canada. And I've been close to Montessori everywhere almost from the beginning. I feel really passionate about this wonderful project where we were all invited to connect, to challenge, and to celebrate. So that's why we're here today. We're going to be talking about the environment, which is such a critical piece. The vision for Connect is that we have the opportunity to talk to each other, to enrich each other as we challenge each other, and we inspire each other as well. So we are going to have you in breakout rooms a little bit later, and we're going to have you in different age groupings so that we can all appreciate the beauty and the continuity of our work. Before that, I would like to start with a land acknowledgement. And today it's going to be a shared land acknowledgement, so you will hear two voices. The city where I live has been inhabited for over 10,000 years. Before it was colonized, it was a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people. This land is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit and by a prior contested agreement. The Mississauga Credit receives 145 million settlement on two claims related to these purchases.
The word Toronto comes from Taronto, a Mohawk word meaning there are trees standing in the water. What we're not sure about is whether it refers to the reflections of the giant elms in the lake when the war canoes came home, or whether it relates to the poles that created their fishing weirs. Toronto originally referred to the area quite a bit north from where we are today, around Lake Simcoe, but later it expanded down southwards towards the shores of Lake Ontario, where we are now.
collectively, and you'll notice we have the same first name, the two voices you heard, but of course you all know Andy. Collectively, our family has been estranged from our land since medieval times. Our most recent forced migrations of the late 19th and 20th century and voluntary migrations to the 20th century have led us to have social capital more so than Indigenous people. And we feel very fortunate, and we do recognize our privilege. So thank you, Andy, for doing this with me. Before we move on with the Connect session, I want to acknowledge and give our thanks to all those of you who have redistributed funds to the Black Montessori Education Fund. It's a cause that I know we all believe in, and thank you for doing that. They are now using and opening for new scholarships. So that's really important, and that's one of the lovely things about this event. And before I continue, I would like to introduce our host, Heital, who has some things to tell us. I'm sorry, not our host, our tech person.
Thank you, Rahina. I am the tech person.
Yes, you are. Thank you, Heital.
So yes, I just wanted to share that the breakout rooms will not be recorded, and if you can leave your cameras on and leave if possible, and keep yourself muted throughout the call, that would help in to keep away any background noise from interrupting our streaming. And if it is possible for you to rename yourself, you can click on the top 3 dots on the top of your name on the top right of your corner, and if you can say which ages you have been or which role you play in the Montessori world, that would be great. And if you're a parent or a grandparent, that works too. And in the breakout rooms, you will get breakout room invite, and if you can remember which breakout room you were in, so in case there's any network issue, or for some reason the call gets dropped off, it's easier for you all to come back in, and I can assign you back to the same room. That's all.
Thank you very much, Heital, for these instructions and for doing this. I admire anybody who can do tech. And now it is my ultimate honor to introduce Andy Lolka. And that's not her claim to fame. She is my daughter, so that's right off the bat. Andy is pinch hitting for us this afternoon. Lucy Canzaroni was going to be our guide, and she's unable to join us. So Andy rose to the occasion, as Andy tends to do. And now I get to introduce her to those of you who may not know her. Andy is CASA and adolescent trained. She is also in her soul elementary trained, because she went through Montessori from a young child, so she has that elementary as part of her soul. She is the mom of a fabulous teenage boy, and as such, she has applied a lot of her work with adolescents. She has guided a lot of us through our own journeys. She has been incredibly supportive to our school. And she is also consulting. She does wonderful work. She's a very inspirational speaker. You all know, I'm sure, the Montessori Teachers Facebook group. I know that many of you came to this through Montessori Teachers Facebook group. And anybody famous in the Montessori world knows Andy, and Andy knows of them. So she's wonderful at making connections. So today she is going to connect us to the environment. And I don't know if she's going to bring her other passion. Andy is doing some serious anti-oppression work and anti-hate work here in our country. So I am more than honored. I am pleased, delighted, and very touched and proud to introduce Andy Lolka to you. Andy, please talk to us about the environment.
Thank you. That's the wildest introduction I've ever had in all my years of speaking. I don't think I've ever had my mother introduce me, so that was really special. So, environment. What is an environment? Is my first question. Now, if you've heard me speak, you know that I will ask you a lot of questions and I will give you very few answers. So my first question is, what actually is the environment when we're talking about it in Montessori terms? if we listen to Dr. Montessori herself, she tells us that it's one of the 3 most important elements in Montessori education. And she uses the word environment, not the word classroom, right? We know that. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One of them being that she was trying to kind of not do school, right? Especially at the beginning. She wasn't trying to do school. She was trying to figure out, how do humans develop? And so she took a very different approach to pedagogy than most people who had been studying pedagogy or the blossoming science of psychology at the time. And what she saw was that there were 3 major elements that impacted the experience of the children in the Montessori environment. And they are the environment, which in The Secret of Childhood, she says must be pleasant. There's the adult, and we are supposed to have spiritual humility, intellectual calm, and a deep understanding of the child. If we have those 3 things, then we can actually prepare the environment. If we don't have those 3 things, whatever we do to the environment, no matter how gorgeous it is, even if it looks like you stepped right into the Neon House catalog, your environment will not function. And the last piece was the special material. And these she describes as attractive objects, which perfected their sense of perceptions, enabling them to analyze and facilitate their movements. So she actually separates the materials from the environment in The Secret of Childhood, which I find fascinating because I always thought the materials were part of the environment. And so since my mom started talking about my teenager, I recently had to learn about eco-critical theory to support him in a English assignment that he was writing. And there's a school of thought that says that there is no separation between the physical and not physical aspects of our environments, that there is no separation between the natural and the man-made elements of our environments. And when I read that, I was like, that's so Montessori. That's so Montessori, because the materials are not part of the environment, but they are part of the environment. And the adult is not part of the environment, but at the same time, we are the most important piece of the environment. And so I'm starting to see how this is more of an interdependent, interrelated ecosystem than a thing that we create for the children. The environment itself, and this again, another quote from Dr. Montessori, the environment itself is in reality an active and vital response to new patterns manifested in the life of a growing child. So what does that tell us? The environment itself is active. The environment itself is vital. And I think here she meant vital as in living, alive, as well as super, super, super important. And the environment is responsive. What does that mean for us? The 2 questions that we're going to be looking at today are, why are consistency and beauty important, and what do we understand by them? And what are some key things that we need to consider when preparing environments? Inside environments, outside environments, home environments, virtual environments. What do we need to consider, and why are beauty and consistency important in all of these things? When we read Dr. Montessori's work, when we look at the pictures from her own classrooms, what we see are cabinets with closed doors. We see materials all over the floor. We see rugs that overlap each other. We see children climbing on tables, right? We see, and she talks about brightly colored furniture. And she talks about colored curtains. And at some point, she even talks about a dustpan that had polka dots on it. And I don't know about you, but I think that would make some of my trainers' heads spin if I tried to bring that into my environment today. And so what's ended up happening is that we now have this idea of what a perfect Montessori environment is that is incredibly Eurocentric and Americentric. And it is no longer culturally specific. And that needs to change because beauty is culturally specific. And beauty is also individually specific. Sometimes when I talk about beauty, I actually say, look behind me. And I can tell you that, and look at my mother's house too. We're both sitting in our dining rooms. I don't know very many houses in Canada that look like this. Because this is what we brought with us when we came from Mexico. This is a culturally specific, beautiful space. And while most people agree with me that it's beautiful, they wouldn't have it in their own home. And that's okay, because this is my beauty. This is my home. So the first thing that we need to consider is, what do we consider beautiful? What do you consider beautiful? Does your classroom reflect that? Do you walk in your classroom and think, beauty? When I walk into a school and I see a bunch of classrooms that all look exactly the same, I just know that this school is going to not be the right place for me. Because there's no authenticity there. There's no responsiveness. There's no vitality. It's not active. And it's not a reflection of who each guide is and what each community is. The classroom is vitally responsive, meaning that it should reflect all of the people in that classroom, and it should reflect their relationships, because it is in relationship to the environment that the children construct themselves. We know this. And we know that Dr. Montessori said that it's more than just, building an intellect. It's about absorbing it and creating their very souls. And if you've ever watched a Montessori graduate, whether they're 15 or 46, work with the pink tower, you know this is true. You know this is true. And I see Gabrielle laughing, and I'm like, this is true. Gabrielle was in Montessori until he was, 18? 14. Young. Adolescence, anyway. So we need to make our environments beautiful, and we need to make them things that are going to attract the children and feed their souls. And the materials are only a part of that. The materials are only a part of that. And we tend to get stuck in the materials because we think the materials are the teacher, but the rest of the environment is also a teacher. And so we fill up our rooms with materials and with things that are going to teach the children whatever we think we need to teach them. And then what happens to the beauty? How are the children going to create that sense of awe and joy and wonder if they're not in beautiful spaces? So then we also have to consider that beauty is more than physical, right? Beauty is also in the way we talk to each other. Beauty is in the way we hear each other, we listen to each other. Beauty is in the way we get down on our knees or on our haunches or sit down on the floor when we talk to the children because we meet them at their level. That's beauty. That's dignity, it's respect, and it is also beauty. And beauty is also in the way we carry ourselves. It's in the way we give our presentations, right? That's why we were taught to slow down and to use graceful movements. I mean, that's only part of the reason. There's other reasons too, but in the context of beauty, that's why we do that, because we want to give them the best of ourselves so that they have the best of ourselves to shape themselves. And so that brings us to consistency, because consistency is also a very beautiful thing. Consistency is what allows the children to feel safe in our presence. And I hope everybody here knows that if a child does not feel safe, a child cannot learn. They cannot develop concentration, discipline. Their will is not going to be a strong will. Children need to feel safe before anything else. And so we create a sense of felt safety with consistency. And again, there are physical elements of consistency, like, you don't go and change the room from one day to the next completely and suddenly without letting the children know about it. There's consistency in our scheduling, right? And there also has to be consistency in our relationships, in our expectations, in that we keep our promises to the children, in that when we tell them we're going to do something, we actually do it, and in our responses to them. If the children see that I respond to Tammy in one way when Tammy is fidgeting or playing with the materials, and then I respond to Heital a completely different way when she is doing the exact same thing, the children notice. The children do notice. And there we have to walk a little bit of a fine line, because we do have to respond to them differently because they have different needs. And they might be doing the same things, but for different reasons. So we have to learn how to be both consistent and responsive. That's that's a huge ask. That's not an easy thing to learn how to do. But that's how we create a sense of felt safety for the children. I feel like I'm running out of time. Am I running out of time? I'm good? Okay. You let me know. Okay. So another thing that we can do to help children get that sense of felt safety, and everything I've been saying, by the way, applies to all the ages. None of this is age specific, is that we need to bring them along when we do make changes. So, if you find that the environment is not working, have you tried consulting the children? Has anybody here ever actually asked the children, like, what do you think isn't working here? Right? And how amazingly well did that go? Because they see things in ways that we don't. And they actually have a deeper understanding of their own relationship to the environment than we ever could. So bring them along, talk to them, involve them in the process. If you need to move a shelf because your head of school came in and said that shelf needs to be over there now, tell the children, talk to them, get them to help you move it. That gives them the sense of agency, of control, of being an important part of their environment, because they are part of the environment just as much as we are. If there is no separation between all the different elements of the environment, if there is a complete interrelationship, then the children are very much a part of the environment. So we're getting close to the end of my time, but I want to leave you with this thought that the single most important consideration when looking at preparing any kind of environment, even a digital one like this, is what is the purpose of this environment? What is going to happen in this space? That question is your most important guide. And when I think about that, I always go back to the original terms that Dr. Montessori used for each of the different environments, right? We have the nest, we have the nido, we have the casa, the home, we have the taller, the workshop, and we have the Erdkinder, right? The child of the earth. We have the earth-based. None of them are classrooms. So when you look at your environment and, you know, if you're in a middle school and you're looking around and it looks like a classroom, where can you make it more earthy? Where can you bring that in? And if you have an elementary environment and you're looking around, does it look like a workshop? Does it look like a taller? Do you have tools? Are you giving the opportunity for that kind of work? And when you're looking at your CASA environments, do they look like a catalog or do they look like a home? I know my CASA environment, my very first CASA environment, they actually had a little living room, child-sized couches. And I think there was even a fireplace, wasn't there? Yeah, with a little fireplace. So we had a living room because it was our home. So what are the key things we need to consider when preparing the environment? What is the environment for? What is the environment supposed to be for? What do we consider beauty? And what do the children in our space consider beauty? And how do we create that sense of felt safety? That's what I look at. That's what I think is most important when preparing an environment. And now I believe Hetal has you all set up in your breakout rooms to go into the breakout rooms.
Yes, you will all have about 40 minutes and enjoy the conversation. You just have to select accept to the breakout room invitation. Enjoy your conversations.
Thank you.
Hi there, Mercy. You should have an invitation to accept yourself into a room. Mary?
Just
Yes. Let us know if you need some support.
do you hear?
No.
Oh,
There we go. Very nice. Okay, we're going to have folks coming back in now. Just a minute.
mm-hmm.
30 seconds.
Countdown timer. The editing person will have to edit this out.
That's okay. Okay, laughter is welcome. I think a learning community without joy isn't learning.
Yes, of course.
Here we go. I can barely hear now. Here we
So we back over to you, Rahina.
Unmute. Thank you so much, Hetao. I hope everybody enjoyed themselves and learned and challenged. I know our group was quite fascinating, and something we hear so often in Montessori circles is we could have gone on forever. All right. So yes, and I see your faces and your expressions. So now I'm going to ask one of the facilitators in each of the groups to share with us. And please feel free to write in the chat whatever observations, thoughts, feelings come your way as we look through it. So Gabriel, would you like to start us, please?
Hello, thank you. We went a lot of ways. So one of the ways we talked about was how different places have different understandings of an environment, of how inner and inside and outside environments can work together, how nature is part of the environment or not. Even the floor, for example, in some places, the floor is more like a stone floor or a wood floor. In some places, it's more like vinyl or something like that. And this was all part of the discussion about how children can feel that themselves and work in these different spaces, and how we, when moving from one kind of space to another, have to let go of some things and accept other things. Then we talked about the need for spontaneous work, joy and routine and flow as aspects of a good environment. How can we know if we are really answering to the children's needs in different environments? So inside, outside, virtual, how can we understand if we are really answering to their needs? And we talked a little bit about forest schools and Montessori method. And by the end, when we were discussing specifically virtual environments, there was a small contribution, but very important, about connection, that we can privilege a connection when we are doing a virtual Montessori space or virtual environment at all. Thank you. It was a very interesting group.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. It sounds like it was. Lovely. Sarah, not in my group, but Sarah in the other group, Sarah B.
Hi, thank you, Regina. It's good to hear that Gabriel also said that they went off on all sorts of different talks, because I think that's always a case. We came to the conversation being inspired by Andy's initial conversation to us, and talking about, for me, there was a point where you said around the fact that we can have sterile environments and bringing in our cultures. And then we had the opportunity to see one of our participants' environment, and how she had set up for Ramadan and done the most beautiful tent in her environment. And I wish very much, I won't put you on the spot, but if there's any way you could share it with everyone, I think that would be absolutely lovely. So maybe talking to tech support can work something out, but it was really worth sharing. It was a very special moment to see how culture had come into an environment and fitted perfectly. So we talked a lot about sort of the spirituality of an environment, and how we bring in that both for the children and for the adults. We also talked about the importance of safety, that the idea of consistency relating to the safety of the child, and that you really can't learn unless you have that sense of safety, and the basics of the respect for the child, so that they're treated in that way that they can feel comfortable to learn. There was also another really lovely key point that was made when the comment was made around the prepared environment, rather than preparing the environment, and so that it is never finished. We talked about the fact that it is always evolving, and we've also talked about the fact that sometimes that can be overwhelming because we're always trying to make it right, or we're always trying to reach this ideal goal, rather than actually acknowledging what we are doing and what is working, and that sense of just tweaking and changing and listening to your children. There was the point around the fact that it's the adult, the child, and the environment that all feed each other, and that no one is separate. Each one connects to the other and feeds the information to the other. So that was a lovely point as well. We talked about meaningful work in that environment. And with that came up the whole conversation around outside work, and really nature. And we were just about to really get into that side of the topic when we suddenly realized we were running out of time. But the importance of nature really being everything in our environment, everything that Montessori talks about. And what I've been very aware of in the families that we talk about is that when we talk about the prepared environment, we use it very much in a jargon, whereas for the general public, usually when you use the word environment, I think particularly at this time in history, they are thinking about climate change. They are thinking about the fact that we are all being separated in our own spaces or country spaces, whatever that. So I thought that would have been lovely to have gone on more about, but as you can tell from me, you can never stop talking. So thank you, it was a delight.
Thank you, Sarah. And in the last group, we had two facilitators and they bounced off each other beautifully. So Sarah and Jean-Marie, who would like to present for our discussion?
I think Jean-Marie would like me to do that.
Okay.
Sure. Please go right ahead. I'll add if but
please do, if you feel there's something. Yeah. So it's interesting, Sarah, you were talking about nature. That came later on in our conversation, but actually nature fed all the way through. We were very lucky to have Leanne in our group, and you could see the power of nature and the importance of nature for her, and the way that she spoke about how she uses it within the school. And Regina was in our group and linked us to Alison Gopnik's work, which is The Carpenter and the Gardener, and helping families and parents perhaps to think about the fact that a beautiful table, very beautifully carved and prepared, and everything is a static thing, but to work in a garden is a very fluid thing, and to perhaps think about that in terms of our role working with children. And we were talking about whether nature is something that is a universal in all Montessori environments, and how challenging that might be if you were in a very urban environment. There were some beautiful things said about beauty. Catherine said about beauty being in the moment of a discovery for the child, and how beauty can link with the human tendencies that the child might be displaying. And Hannah brought a memory from when she was in a school, in a primary school, and how a triangle was converted into a hexagon, and how that moment of discovery, that joy of discovery at that time has actually been something that's guided her life and her work that she did. Thank you for sharing that, Hannah. And Leanne talked about the importance of connecting children to the environment, and then they can choose. Children are then empowered, and that's where beauty comes. So this beauty that radiates from inside, so external beauty, but we spend a lot of time really focusing on that internal beauty. And in consistency, again, Leanne shared something about in our very changing environment at the moment, how a familiar voice, because we don't know whether we'd be on Zoom or in a classroom, or whether we'll be indoors or outdoors, or what we would be allowed to use, but the familiar voice and the familiar approach and some sense of a routine is for the children's benefit, but also for the adults' benefit. And if our well-being is being supported, then we're in a good position of supporting the children.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Appreciate it. I'm sorry to cut you off because
No, that's fine. It's fine.
Discussion, but I have a program to follow. Thank you so much, everybody. Andy, back to you to help us
wrap
put
it up,
everything together.
to weave it all back here. Okay. So in my trip through all of your rooms, there were things that kept on coming up. And there were a lot of words, like single words that people were saying that really stuck out to me. So I'm just going to read a few words, okay? And see what this brings up for you in terms of the environment. Breathe, care, joy, flow, movement, comfort, adaptability, discovery, connection, curiosity, and wonder. When I am asked, and I often am asked, how do I know whether it's okay to bring something into the environment, right? This is one of the biggest questions because we all have supplemental materials, right? And we all want to use all of them. And it's funny because we also know that we're not supposed to fill our classrooms with supplemental materials, but we really like them because they're so cute, or they're so pretty, or they're so amazing for this reason or that reason or the other reason. So how do you know whether or not you should bring them in? And my invitation to you is to go back to these ideas. And Leanne actually said something that really struck me when you said, Leanne, that everything in your classroom, you ask yourself, does this spark wonder? Does this have the potential to spark curiosity and wonder? And I think that is probably the most important question we can ask when bringing in anything into our environment. And we're not just talking about materials here. We're talking about everything. We're talking about the books. We're talking about the decorations. We're talking about what are you bringing for the children to polish? We're talking about what rugs you're going to put on the floor. We're talking about the curtains or the lack of curtains, or, you know, everything in the classroom has the potential to be that thing that sparks that moment of curiosity. And that's what the environment should do. It should spark the interest of the child. And if we can do that, then we're good. We're good. And back to you.
Thank you very much, Andy. I hope everybody took note of those words. I think they speak to all of us, and we know what to do with that. Thank you very much, Andrea, for that. And I would like to now introduce the Earth Project. Shalisa, are you ready for us?
I am. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to start and say I'm so excited to be here with all of you and to share and connect with people around the world. It is my pleasure to speak a little bit about the Earth Project that's launched by Montessori Everywhere. So on Earth Day on Thursday, Montessori Everywhere launched the Earth Project, which myself and a team of people have been working on. And it's to connect children around the world about regenerating the earth and having that excitement and joy of taking care of the earth and celebrating the earth. I just wanted to give you more details on the project that will be running from September to November. If you go to montessorieverywhere.org under the bar Planet the Earth Project, you'll find more details about the project, and you can sign up your school, you can sign up as an individual or your institution, and you don't have to be Montessori. You could be a parent who has an interest in Montessori. It's about connecting internationally. We want to connect these children that can create different projects, that can talk to someone in Nigeria and inspire someone in Canada and connect them together and learn from each other. So the teachers can connect. So we're going to be using a platform called Moodle. And it is a safe, secure platform that has a username and password if you're familiar with it. One thing that's great, to be welcoming to everyone around the world. It does have multiple languages, so it will be accessible to many people. On this, yay, I know, I'm so excited. On Moodle, there will be, it's a place where you can have a forum. You're able to ask questions. They'll be set up for Zoom calls. Because September to November, the idea of the Earth Project is not to have it overwhelming or feel like, oh, it's something extra that I have to do. You are already doing it. Your school, your environment, you as a person, you are helping the environment. You are stewards of the world, and we want to showcase this. And that's what it's about. So if Leanne is doing something and she wants to talk about it, you're like, I didn't think of this. Let me try this. And you can also reach out and be like, I want to connect my students with these students. We'll all have to work out with the logistics, with the timing, with everything, but we want to connect. And the best way to connect is with the children. They are our drive. They have the passion. They have the spark. They have the wonder. They want to be doing things. And we are helping facilitate them and guiding them through this. One of the things as well, if you do not have access to internet, you can always download the materials. So there will be topics about regeneration, topic of food. When the children come up with different ideas, we can put them, you can add it on to the Moodle. And it's for all ages, from 0 all the way adolescents. We want to know what everyone's doing. Like it's gonna be fun. It's about connecting everyone, not just connecting us. We want you to spread the word. If you go to montessorieverywhere.org, Planet Earth Project, you will find information. You will find all the details that you have to sign in to sign up, and spread the word via social media, through your school, through your community. Again, it's going to be lots of fun, and the Earth Project team will be there to help facilitate, and we'll be reaching out with you guys from September to November. We'll be checking in, similar to these connects, where we're like, hey, what's happening? What's going on? And then the next month, okay, have you worked on A, B, or C, or what your goal is? Or hey, you've thought of different things. The idea is not to add to the work. It's about showcasing the work and inspiring others and building that community and having a global project that's done locally. So that is what's happening in the nutshell. So please join, please sign up, and we can't wait. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Alisa, and congratulations to Montessori Everywhere for yet one more amazing endeavor. And I could add 2 more words coming from your conversation to what Andy said, and that would be community and inspiration. So thank you so much. And in thanking, I want to thank everybody for coming today. Andrea, Andy, not only for inspiring us and for leading us, but for pinch hitting and showing up when you were needed. Much appreciated. To our tech people, Hital and Tammy, thank you for being there and making sure everything ran smoothly. Our amazing facilitators, for your enthusiasm and the way you guided and the way you helped us think more deeply. So let's continue the conversation, of course, through social media, of course, through these sessions. The next session is Sunday, May 23rd. There are going to be open spaces. Do sign up for the newsletter if you haven't already done it. We want to hear everybody's voices. And thank you so much again for being here. You'll be receiving the recording. And wherever you are in the world, have a beautiful day or a beautiful evening going forward.
I just want to add that if we can redistribute the funds to Black Montessori Education Fund, the link Tammy just put in the chat right now. So thank you, everyone. And if while you're leaving, you can unmute yourselves and say something.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rahina.
Thank you, Rahina, for keeping us embraced and bringing us back to what we need.
Thank you, everyone. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
Alisa.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amazing guidance. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
lovely day.
Salam.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Salam.
Bye. Salam.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you.
so much. Thank
Have a
you.
wonderful evening or nighttime or morning or wherever you are. Enjoy. It was so nice seeing everyone.
You too, Shalisa. See you later.
Bye.
Okay, I think we're down to the all facilitators, right?
Think we're good. Let's go ahead and I'm going to turn off the recording.
I got it.
Oh, look at